If you're a fat person, it's because you think like a fat person, and all of your fat ass thoughts caused you to take fat ass actions. And your fat thoughts combined with your fat actions are what makes you a fat person. It is not your genetics, it is not your hormones, it is not some eating disorder or your relationship with food. It's not the types of food that you eat. It's the quantities of those foods, but certainly not the types of foods by themselves. It is your thoughts and your actions. Those things combine to make you into who it is that you are. And as long as you think like a fat person thinks, you are never going to be anything other than a fat person, because your thoughts dictate your actions and your actions create your reality. This applies to literally everything in life. If you are a poor person, it is because you think the thoughts of a poor person, which causes you to take the actions of a poor person. And those things combined and make you into a poor person. It is not a generational curse. It is not society. It is not the patriarchy. It is not white supremacy or systemic racism. It's not the system. It's not the billionaires hoarding all of the money or whatever stupid shit it is that people would like to say. It's not nepotism. It's not any of these other things. It is your thoughts and it is your actions. Every single person who is poor does what poor people do because they think what poor people think. Every single person who is depressed because they do what depressed people do because they think what depressed people think. I know it might be comforting to tell yourself that you have some sort of chemical imbalance, or it's genetic, or it's due to some tragic event that happened in your life that you're too pussy to let go of. But it is none of those things. It is because you have accepted the idea that you are depressed, and then you think a bunch of depressed ass thoughts, which causes you to do depressed ass things. And what do you know? That fosters your fucking depressed state and leads you to exist as someone who suffers from depression, excuse me. All of it goes back to your thoughts, period. Your mindset is the most important thing in the whole entire world. It is what dictates how it is you will go through life. It is what dictates what it is that you will do, which is what dictates who it is that you will become. There is not a single person in the history of life, in the history of the world, in the history of time, in the history of all of the lies in the history books, who thinks differently than they are. No one thinks fit people thoughts. No one has the mindset of a fit person and is a fat person. Fat people have the mindsets of fat people. They think about food, they think about eating food, they think about excuses, they think about putting things off, they think about what's comfortable and what will make them feel best. They think about what they will derive the most pleasure from. They think about doing the easy thing. They think that it's too hard for them to think about wanting to eat food and not do it. So when a thought about food pops into their head, they go off and they eat whatever food that is, regardless of the consequences, because they're not concerned with what is best for them. They are concerned with what feels good in the moment. And those thoughts are what come together to make them act as though fat people do and therefore become a fat person. Poor people think poor people thoughts. They think that everything is everyone else's fault. They think that rich people cheated. They think that people who are successful got lucky. They think that people who are successful are evil. They think that people who are successful had it handed to them, all kinds of shit. They think that all of their excuses matter. They think that what matters most is what makes them feel best. They think that it's okay to put things off. They think that they have to do all sorts of nonsensical things because they believe that they have to be entertained and have some sort of downtime just because they believe that they should make more money than they're currently making simply for the fact that they want to, not because they have earned it. All of these things that they think cause them to take certain actions or not take certain actions that keep them exactly where it is that they are, which is having no money, which is being broke, which is looking for handouts, which is expecting the magical powers that be to come together and take all of the rich people's money and distribute it amongst all of the poors collectively so that they can all have equity, because everything will be fair that way. But what they don't realize is, even if that were to happen, because of their mindset, it would only be a matter of time before they were back to being poor. Because the issue isn't that they weren't given anything. The issue isn't that they don't have the right relatives, or they're not the right skin color, or that society hates them, or that they have generational curses that have been passed on down to them by the loser gods. It's not any of that shit. The The issue is the way that they think. And just being handed money won't stop you from thinking like a poor person. You will just think like a poor person who has some money temporarily. And those thoughts will cause you to act like a poor person and do poor person shit and wind up back in the position of a poor person. Because again, that is your mindset. When you are poor, it's because your mindset is poor. It is not because of anything else. Everything starts with your mind. Every single thing in the world starts with your thoughts. Wherever you are, it is because you believe that that is where you should be. You think that's where you should be, and then you act accordingly, and that keeps you exactly where the fuck it is that you are. If a fucking wizard popped up and made all of the fat people fit and gave them abs and biceps and pecs and all of that fancy shit that they want, it would only be a matter of time before they were fat again, because what they did not change was their mindset, which is what made them to be fat in the first place. When you think things, you act upon things. Whatever idea you have into your head, you will bring into reality. People laugh at the manifestation shit, the law of attraction, but that's absolutely a real thing. And if you could take a look at anybody's life, you will see that the world that they reside in is a product of the thoughts that they have. It might not be what periodically bounces around in their head, but their predominant thoughts are what it is that has created their life. There are some people who wish that they had a lot more money or were a lot more successful, but also simultaneously claim that they don't have time, but spend all of their free time watching Netflix or fucking football or basketball or baseball, or whatever the fuck other sports it is that people watch. They have time for that because that's what it is that they would like. In their mind, in their subconscious, they want the life of someone who gets to be infinitely entertained, or at least entertained the majority of time. They have manifested that, and they have made that into their reality, that they are entertained most of the time. They got those things. They created that. There's infinite entertainment for them to partake in, and they never run out of it, and they can't imagine not doing it, because that's what it is that they truly want, and that's what it is that they think about most. Most people can find solutions to any single problem. They could find a way to go, but what is it that they have instead? Excuses, because that's what they think about the most, is how can I justify not doing this? Why can't I do this? What will prevent this from working? Why can't I be happy? And you will find every single one of those things. You will bring them into reality. You will bring them into fruition, because as long as you are thinking that because you are depressed, you can never do certain things, or that you have something wrong with you, or that other people just don't understand when they tell you that you could be better, you will never be better. Not because you don't have the ability to, not because you have some sort of nebulous disorder or malfunction going on in your mind, but because you don't think that you could be better. There is not anyone in the world who thinks like a sad person, who thinks that they will always be sad, who winds up happy or depressed, because people like to sit there and split hairs. It's not just being sad. No, it's not. It's making a bunch of fucking excuses and doing nothing. But that's a separate topic. There's not a single person in the world who thinks that there is nothing they can do about their sadness who will wind up happy. As long as you think those things, you will be those things. And then the fact that you continue to be those things because you think those things just reinforces the initial belief and causes you to continue on doing it. But it's not that you were correct or observant in noticing that you can never be happy. It's because you don't think that you can ever be happy, which prevents you from being happy or not depressed, however the fuck it is you would like to quantify that stupid shit. As long as you think that there's nothing that you could do about it, there will never be anything that you could do about it. If you look at the people who go to the hospital because they got into some sort of horrific, tragic accidents, maybe they were in a car and someone T-boned them or something, or their parachute failed when they were skydiving, but not so low down that it would kill them, but low enough that if they when they hit the ground, it made them be paralyzed, or a horse through, I don't know, some shit, whatever the fuck it is that happens to people that causes them to wind up in a situation where the doctor says you will never be able to lose your legs again. There are a bunch of people who beat the odds and wind up walking again despite what all of the doctors say. Not because that's just what was going to happen and they just wound up in that situation, but because when they heard that they were never going to be able to walk again, they did not accept it in their mind. They thought that they would be able to walk again, and that caused them to take all of the necessary actions and do the necessary things to be able to walk again. If they had just accepted what it is that the doctors had told them, the doctors would be correct. Not just because the doctors were correct, but because they accepted it and therefore made that their reality. They heard, you will never walk again. They accepted that belief, they accepted that idea, and they started thinking that they will never walk again. And again, you will manifest whatever it is that you think about into reality, the things that you truly think about. So they accepted it, that became their thoughts, and that became their actions and their worldview. And what do you know? They wind up never being able to walk again. It's not specifically that the doctors are sometimes wrong, it's that whether or not the people accept what it is that they are saying is correct. Again, it all comes back to your mind, and it comes back to your mindset. When you accept thoughts into your brain that are not conducive to your goals, to your well-being, to your future, to who it is that you want to be, to the things that you want to do, you are handicapping yourself every single time. When you believe in depression, you are more likely to become depressed. If you look at the people who suffer from the most mental health issues, it's those fucking mental health advocates, because they've made that their entire world. They have occupied the entirety of their mind with thoughts about anxiety and depression and ADD and various forms of autism, not the actual debilitating shit that people have, but the things where people are like, I only like to wear blue shirts. Haha, I'm neurodivergent. No, you're a fucking idiot, and you've accepted these things. But these people make this thing their whole entire worldview and their whole entire reality, and that prevents them from ever being able to be anything else. So they suffer from all of these things because they believe in these things, because they've let them exist in their mind for long enough. It has taken over their reality, and they have manifested all of this negative shit into existence. And they think that their experiences are proof that what it is that they are saying is true, when it's the exact opposite. Their belief is what makes these things take place. And if they were to let them go, they would be in a much better position. People talk about the going back or continuing on with the mental health shit. People always say that you need to spread awareness, but sometimes the awareness of something is what the contagion is. When you know about a thing, you are more likely to be susceptible to the thing. I'm not a big study person, but there are studies and statistics about how back in the 90s, whenever doctors started talking about things like bulimia and what's the other one? We don't eat anorexia, that more people started to suffer from these things. They went up as more people were aware about it, because the idea was implanted into their mind that I don't eat, or I shouldn't be eating food, and that could be a thing, and then you get to wherever it is, or throwing up your food, whatever the fucking case may be, and more people do it. It's the exact same thing with the Tide Pod thing, about how they have the data that shows that as they reported on people eating Tide Pods, more people ate Tide Pods. So them presenting it as a thing made the thing take place more. It wasn't just that people were naturally inclined to eat Tide Pods. They heard about it, and it existed in their brain. And because it existed in their brain, it was an action that they were able to take. It is all of these, it is these things, it is the spreading of these things that we can argue about whether or not it is intentional. That is a whole entire separate thing. Yes, obviously it is, but that's a separate thing as a whole. The point is, once you entertain these things in your mind, you become more likely to suffer from it. No one will ever suffer from depression or ADD if as a disease or disorder, if they don't know that it's a thing and don't believe it to be a thing. Because say you have your ADD and you are unable to focus. If you believe that there is something that you could do to fix your focus, or you could find a way to focus, then that's a thing that you are going to be able to do. But once you accept into your mind the idea that you have this disorder, or something is fucking off in your brain, then you have now taken away your incentivizer, your ability, your motivation to try and find something to do about it, because you don't believe that you can do about it. In the exact same way, if someone cuts off your leg, you're not going to sit there and try and figure out how to grow your leg back, because that's not a thing that's possible to do. These disorders serve the exact same thing. The idea of the existence of depression as a disorder, or anxiety as a disorder, or ADD as a disorder is the same thing as the not having your leg thing. If they cut off your leg, you can't grow your leg back. If you believe that these things are disorders, then once someone tells you that you have them, you also believe that you can't get rid of them. And because you believe you can't get rid of them, you will forever suffer from them. And that is not a function of the disorder. That is a function of your belief in this disorder. And people do this in all avenues, and they go through life with all of these stupid beliefs that hold them back. People run around talking about racism forever and discrimination and all of this other shit. And this is not to say that nobody is racist or discriminatory, but that's an entirely separate point. The point is, when you have the world view that racism and fucking sexism and homophobia and the patriarchy, whatever the fuck it is holding you back, that will always prevent you from moving forward. Not because there's not a path for you, but because the way that you're looking, your perspective, prevents you from being able to see the path. Because if you're going out driving throughout the world and you get pulled over and you believe that the police pulled over black people, in your mind somewhere, you will believe that you have gotten pulled over because you are black. Even though I would guarantee you that 99.9% of people who have been pulled over and think that it's because they were black were not told that. No one gets stopped and says, do you know why? And the officer walks up and says, do you know why I pulled you over? It's because you're black. No, they tell you whatever the fuck it is, and people go and disregard that and assume it's because of their race. That is an assumed thing. When you go into a job interview and you don't get the job, you're assuming that it's because you're a woman. No one is telling you that. Again, for 99.9% of the people who assume these things. I'm not saying no one has ever been told it, but I assure you, you are not being told that no one is hiring you because you're a woman, because that's illegal and you could fucking sue, and nobody wants to get sued. So you're assuming that's the case, and you can try and pile it up with all the other data that you like. Well, these other people didn't get pulled over because there were other people speeding and they didn't get pulled over and I did, and they weren't black and I were. Like, you actually fucking know that and took the amount of time to look at all of the other cars, but that's a separate point. But you're still assuming that that's the reason that you were singled out. And because you're assuming that that's the reason that you were singled out, because you're assuming that you're not getting hired at a job because of your gender, you are now putting up a wall and handicapping yourself for being able to do the correct things necessary to ensure that you do get jobs in the future. Because even if it is your gender, there are women with jobs. So why can't you be a woman with a job? Because you're not trying to do anything to better yourself. There are black people who drive and don't get pulled over all of the time. Why can't you be one of them? Because you're not doing anything to ensure that you do not get pulled over. You are choosing to focus on the one thing that you cannot affect. And as long as that is your mindset, that will always hold you back, whether it actually is or not. As long as you believe that you can't get ahead because of the color of your skin, you are handicapping yourself from doing all of the things necessary to get ahead because of the color of your skin. Because regardless of how it is that you would like to slice it, there are rich and successful black people, Mexican people, Jewish people, Chinese people, Japanese people, Korean people, fucking Hindu people, fucking gay people, fucking transformers, fucking short people, tall people, bald people, beardless people, bearded people, of every single variety. And if they could do the thing, you could do the thing too. But not if you don't think that you could do the thing. If you don't believe that you are able to better your situation, then you are never going to be able to better your situation. And because your mindset is one of someone who finds excuses, the fact that your situation has not gotten better while you believe it's not going to get better, that will just reinforce to you the idea that there's nothing that you could do to make it better, which will only further prevent you from being able to make it better. And once again, as we said in the beginning, that is not because you are that is not because you are an astute observer. It is because you are manifesting these conditions into your reality by thinking these things. That is not the way to go. What matters and what it is that you have full control over at the end of the day is your mindset. It is your perspectives. It is your belief system. It is your worldview. It is the values that you assign to these things. Every single one of them should be something that serves you. I don't think anything negative. I don't believe anything negative. I only think positive thoughts. I believe that everything that takes place in my life, regardless of what it is good and of benefit, or will be to benefit of me. I don't believe in things that will hurt me or hold me back. I don't believe that the color of my skin will prevent me from doing better. Even if it's true, it doesn't matter. What matters is what it is that I believe. I believe that won't stop me from getting ahead. I believe me having tattoos or earrings or a beard or whatever the fuck, it will not. I don't believe that that will stop me, because on some level, your belief in it will make it true. People suffer far more from their belief in oppression than they do from actual oppression. So you need to adopt all of these beliefs that are better for you, that will put you in a better position. If you believe in all of these mental health disorders, you are more susceptible to them. Now, again, you can argue about whether or not they really exist, but that's not relevant. If I start feeling anxious and I take my anxiety and look at what it is that's making me anxious and why it's making me anxious, just like if every single other fucking person does, you will see that you are anxious because you feel that you were unprepared for something that you feel will come up in the future, whatever it is that might be. Now, there is something that you could do about that, but once you adopt the belief that you are feeling anxious because you have some sort of anxiety disorder, then you are removing your willingness, desire, and ability to focus on the thing that you are actually feeling anxious about, because you don't think that will get rid of your anxiety. You think that the only way that you could get rid of your anxiety is with some sort of pill. You will always be in a worse off position if you believe in these things, because if you believe that you're going to be sad no matter what it is that you do, then you're not going to try and do anything about your sadness. Again, even if it is real, even if you can't do anything about it, you will always be in a better position trying to do something about it. You will always be in a better position finding ways to do something about it, because at the very least, even if when everything is said and done, at the end of the day, you're still going to be sad and depressed and shit, while you're in the process of doing something, while you're in the process of momentuming stuff, it is very hard to feel any specific way because you're too focused on what the fuck it is that you are doing. So even if it's not going to solve it, it will alleviate it. Regardless, you will always be in a better position if you don't believe in things that do not serve you. If you are a fat person and you believe that your genetics are going to prevent you from losing weight or are the reason that you are fat, then you're not going to stick to the type of diet that you need to for long enough in order to lose the weight, because that is a sacrifice, and there's no point in making the sacrifice if you don't believe that the sacrifice will be worth it, which is what you're telling yourself when you tell yourself it's your genetics. You still have things that you have to do. You have to work out. You have to pay attention to what it is that you are eating. You have to tell yourself no to certain foods. You have to tell yourself no to cravings. None of these things are specifically pleasant. They're not really difficult in the overall scheme of things. I know people are pussy and swear that losing weight is hard because they can't deal with the idea of thinking about food. Fine, we can accept that. But in the overall scheme of things, they're not that difficult. But you're still not going to do these things if you don't believe there's any utility in it. Why go through the steps or the feelings of feeling uncomfortable and unhappy if you don't believe that that will pay off for you? Because that's the only reason people make sacrifices, is because they believe that it will work at the end of the day. The man who goes to the gym every single day and eats the way that he's supposed to eat, even though he's not immediately seeing results, even though he wakes up the next day feeling sore but not looking any different, so he feels worse but doesn't look better, and does that again the next day, does so because in his mind, in his heart, he believes that going will pay off. He believes that that sacrifice will be worth it, and that's what you need, is that belief. But when you adopt these other things, when you adopt the ideas that your childhood means you can never be happy, or the your generational curses mean that you can never be successful, or the fact that you didn't spend the early years of your life doing certain things means you can never get ahead in the world, or you believe that your brain makeup means you can never act a certain way, or you believe that because you were an introvert that you can't go out and do certain things and therefore accomplish certain things, that is going to prevent you from doing the shit. Fuck every single belief that does not serve you. Also, at the end of the day, it doesn't even truly matter what's true. Sometimes what matters is what works out best for you or works out best in your favor. If two people go outside and get shot, and one of them is like, oh man, I'm probably going to die, and the other one is like, nah, this is all good, I'm happy this happened, and I will get over through this and be stronger. Both of them are in the same position. Both of them had a bullet in them. But I guarantee you, if you were somehow in a position to bet on who it is that would continue to be alive, you would pick the person with a positive outlook. A negative outlook will never help anyone in their situation. A negative outlook will never benefit anything that anyone is doing. A negative outlook will never contribute to anything that is going on in the world. All it best case scenario, it does nothing. But worst case scenario, it makes everything worse. Same thing with the positive outlook. Best case scenario, it improves your chances at everything, but worst case scenario, it does nothing. So if you wind up in the thing where the best case of the negative is nothing happening and the worst case of the positive is nothing happening, and you arrive there, it still makes more sense to take the positive outlook, because at the very least, going back to the people who got shot, why you have a bullet in you no matter what. Why also be mad and have a bullet in you? Why not be happy and have a bullet in you? That's still better. A positive outlook will always still be better for you, regardless if it makes a difference or if it makes no difference. Same thing with the negative outlook. That will always be the worst thing, whether it makes a difference or no difference. So why would you not skew towards positive? Why would you not skew towards the idea of only believing in things that serve you and assigning certain things a certain value? You could take this, you could apply this to anything. I don't give a fuck what your tragedies are. Your parents died when you were a kid. That's unfortunate. But whatever. No matter what it is that you do, they're dead. If you're negative about it, it's not going, and you're sad about it, it's not like if you hit a certain level of sadness, they will be resurrected. And if you're positive about it, it's not like that you're going to make them be more dead. So why not take the positive outlook on it and figure out, what is it that I can get from this? What can I take from this? How can I make the most of this situation that I cannot change? But most people don't do that. They are negative. They have the negative mindset, and they are willing to look, they choose to look at the things that take place in a way that will not serve them but will actively detriment them. And that is why it is that they are never going to get to where it is that they would like to be. Anyone who thinks negative things will get negative things, regardless of what those things are, regardless of how true you try and convince yourself it is. I don't give a fuck what your genetics are. You can have the worst genetics in the world, but if you put in the work to get in shape, you will get in shape. If you have the greatest genetics in the world, but you don't believe that you can get in shape, then you won't be in shape. None of it matters but your mindset.